Hello and welcome back to the GamecocksGroup.com podcast, the official podcast of GamecocksGroup.com on Rivals. I'm joined by Pauline and Alan, who is the newest member of the Gamecocks Group team and just spent a week at SEC Media Days, which we're going to get into real quick.
You can
By
see
the
it by
way,
the bags under my eyes.
yeah, right. I'm sure you're gonna have a nice long rest this weekend. By the way, if you've been missing the intro music video, whatever, the guy that made that, Davis, sent me another one because we were having copyright issues with the first one on YouTube. So he sent me another one that hopefully will play nice with YouTube, but I just haven't had time to upload it yet. So hopefully next podcast we'll have that going again. Anyway, there's a lot to get to other than SEC Media Days that I was going to run down real quick, and then we'll get right into that. On the website, GamecocksScoop.com, if you're a premium subscriber, hopefully later today, I'm going to put out my weekly recruiting wrap-up, which is kind of the big recruiting article that I do every week, has lots of insider info. I'm not going to share all that insider info right now because I wouldn't be very good at my job if I did, but I did want to kind of just mention a couple of high notes. But I did want to just make you aware of two commitments that are going to be announced in about a week. So on July 31st, Tosin Babalade, who goes by Tree or Big Tree out of Maryland, the old lineman, is set to announce his commitment between Maryland, Ohio State, and South Carolina on July 31st. And then Carmelo Taylor, wide receiver out of Virginia, is set to announce his commitment between Penn State, Virginia Tech, South Carolina. I go kind of into how I'm feeling about each of those on this article that'll be posted here in a little bit. So you can check that out for more, but I just wanted to make you guys aware of that one. Another note that I haven't put in the article yet, but that is kind of interesting, is that next week there's an end of summer cookout for a lot of the recruits. I know quarterback commit Dante Reno is going to be there. O-lineman commit Trovon Ball is going to be there. And also Big Tree is supposed to be at this cookout, or at least that's the info that I have right now. Obviously, that could change, along with a bunch of other people that you can find in the article as well. So I just kind of wanted to quickly note that. As far as other just general news from Gamecock Land, other than Media Days, which we have tons of Media Days stuff up there that we're about to get into, that's mostly what's been up lately. Steven Anderson did a good article on the Gamecocks that were selected in the MLB draft, both current players and recruits. And I believe South Carolina really only lost one that is most likely going to enter the draft, and that was a recruit, Zibin. But yeah, you can check out all that stuff. And then that's pretty much all that I have other than SEC Media Days. So let's go ahead and get into that. Alan, so you just spent a week at SEC Media Days. Obviously, Tuesday was South Carolina's day. We'll get into that in just a second. But do you have any general takeaways from the other 3 days or just the experience at large? I think that was your first SEC Media Days, right?
That was my first. It's funny. I was telling to someone else. Atlanta's a good city for it. The College Football Hall of Fame's not a good building for it because the roof's really thin and it really rained hard during a couple of the coaches who were up there. I think Josh Heupel, it got to a point where he was telling people to speak up to hear their questions because it was raining so loud on the roof. But Beamer was up there and it was clean. So say what you want about the weather, how they're feeling about the weather gods feeling about South Carolina football this year. But it's good. It's a lot of people. It's good to see people. It's good to meet people. It's a generally good vibe around South Carolina from other people I talked to. I'd say them and other than like Georgia and Alabama, I'd say them and Tennessee had mostly good vibes. People, they're kind of similar programs. Year 2, new coach, SEC East, kind of sort of expected to score a lot of points this year. There were generally good vibes around South Carolina, I felt like.
Yeah, the funny thing about SEC Media Days, I feel like, is a lot of the info, at least on your local team, is just rehashing what we already probably talked about a lot throughout the spring. Although we did get a couple specific news and notes, one being that Rick Sandage, if I'm not mistaken, isn't expected to be
Yeah,
ready for the first day
Beamer
of fall camp.
Beamer said he's the only player on the roster who's not going to be ready on August 5th when fall camp starts. Said everybody else was clear.
Yeah, so that was a quick news update. But outside of that, there wasn't a ton of like actual news, but there was a lot of, like you said, good feelings and good vibes. Starting Justin King, the social media where they posted the
You cut
video of
out again.
Soldier
Yeah,
Boy
you cut
or
right
of
before you were
awesome.
right before you
You
were
cut
like
right out
right after
again.
you said like good vibes around South Carolina. I think you're going into the Beamer video, maybe from what I could tell. Okay,
I
yeah. So
was,
just
yeah.
go into that. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, from what I could tell from afar, lots of good vibes with the South Carolina program. Starting on Tuesday morning with a really great move by Justin King and the South Carolina athletics social media team, posting that video of Beamer walking up to the mic with Soldier
So
Boys.
amazing.
Uh,
I love that video so much.
yeah, and it went viral, and Soldier Boy himself retweeted it, and it was pretty great. And I saw a really funny tweet. I can't remember exactly who it was from. A couple people did the same sentiment of like Shane Beamer is who Dabo Sweeney
Thinks
wishes
he
that
is.
he
Yeah.
was, or thinks that he is, or something. And I was like, that's pretty apt. I like
It
I
was
thought that
that.
really
was
it was
really
really chill
funny.
around Beamer. In that little, I don't know, 20-25 minute breakout session with local media, whatever. He's talking about like, oh, my kids wanted to go to the aquarium the first time I went to Atlanta, but now we're at the College Football
So
Hall of
freaking
Fame, and
adorable.
he mentioned he wanted it. They've got this little thing there. I don't know if they had it set up for media days, but you can like kick an extra point basically. It's like about the same distance of grass, and he's like, I wish I got a chance to go kick one of those. I think I would have made it.
Aw,
Um,
love that man.
Pauline, as someone who kind of thinks about the social media aspect of it, how do you think that South Carolina is doing in that department? I mean, obviously that's a good example, but it seems like there's been several over the summer that have kind of kept them in the national conversation, at least on Twitter or whatever.
I literally can say since the day that Shane Beamer like came to South Carolina, our entire social media, like we've always had the hype videos like every other college has, but like I feel like there's so much more content being made because there's just so much more opportunity to like see those types of environments and like clearly he's willing to do really anything for TikTok, like clearly. But I think that has helped us a lot, especially just because everything's moving more media wise, anyways. The fact that we are literally getting shouted out by other schools, Soldier Boy, like our coach is going viral. He's been viral already before, like multiple times. I think that's hilarious. But like, it just adds more of like brings everybody together to rally behind our new coach who's like this awesome guy and like is changing the whole like landscape of our team from the bottom up, like making it more of like a family and more fun vibe, which I think is helping us out.
Yeah, I think it definitely does a good job in just creating the culture. And also, we're in this environment where brands matter so much, and it's constantly getting the brand out
Mm-hmm.
there on a national stage in kind of a unique way too. Which I think a lot of that. I mean, it's not just Justin King, but he's the easiest person to point to. And it's funny, like as an elder gamecock or whatever. I'm not an elder gamecock. I'm in my 30s, but I remember as a teenager, Justin King making hype videos while he was a student at South Carolina, and they're being like the best hype videos. Looking into each season, I was always looking forward to those coming out. So I think that was an excellent move by the University of South Carolina to pick him up, and it seems like he's really excelling in that role, which eh, he's got
I
a whole
feel like
team
we
around
haven't
him.
had a lot of bad press. We haven't had a lot of
That's
bad
kind of what
press
I wanted. That's
since.
kind of what I was more hitting on. Like South Carolina as a school, there's certain schools there where the vibes were just kind of bad. I think everybody knew they'd be bad with Auburn, given what happened with Harsin in the off season. That was a very like he actually started this thing with. I know y'all didn't expect to see me here again. I was like, no, we didn't. That's right, we didn't.
It's a great
Um,
way to kick off.
yeah, it's always going well at your program when that's your opening statement. But there were a few teams where it was just kind of weird. I didn't get much of that from South Carolina. There's not much to be unhappy about right now if you're South Carolina. Um, give it another year. If the season goes off the rails, if the Rattler experiment doesn't work, it might be different this time next year. Right now, I don't think there's a lot to be unhappy about if you're South Carolina.
To
Yeah,
your
this is
point, though, I was gonna go. To your point, though, because I'm looking at this right now. When you first on day 2, I think it was when the Vanderbilt QB Mike Wright was actually, he was praising Spencer Rattler and talking about that, and he's from Vanderbilt. Like he's not even.
Yeah. I wasn't saying it's not going to
even
work. I'm just saying it's the SEC and things happen.
No. I know. I think
quickly.
that like it's positive press for us. Like even other teams are also like shouting us out, which
I'll go
I
ahead
think
and
is really good.
plug that. I ended up. It's weird at media days. Everyone's kind of in their own individual scrums, player wise, and when you get Stetson Bennett there's 10,000 people. When you get smaller schools and there's players, there's a couple. You have more conversations. I wrote 2 pieces this week with players from other schools. One Vanderbilt. These are for premium subscribers. One Vanderbilt's Mike Wright. The other is Kentucky's linebacker DeAndre Square. Both of them had some conversations about their respective schools' game and kind of series overall against South Carolina. Obviously, South Carolina won one of those games and lost one of them last year. But we'll have them both on the schedule again this year. But some interesting stuff there with some other players in the SEC for subscribers on the website.
Yeah, and that was kind of a unique thing that I didn't see anywhere else. Which, I mean, at SEC Media Days, anybody can kind of. I mean, I wrote the South Carolina presser article after watching it on SEC Network, and a lot of people can do that. So, I mean, I'm glad that you took advantage of actually being there and kind of trying to find some unique angles, because what's the point of going if you're not going to find a unique angle? So, I thought that was pretty cool. Back to what we were saying about capitalizing on all the positive momentum and stuff, though. This is something that I was talking to Zach Carpenter, who was our previous recruiting editor before Lee Wardlaw, about even a few months ago, which is like we're in this very nice upward trajectory pretty much since the Duke's Mayo Bowl with that win, and then following that up with Rattler and Stogner both announcing that they're transferring here. I believe that was in January. Everything's just been, pretty peachy, and that's great. But now you have to show it on the field. We're gonna have to definitely. Now that doesn't mean I think you need to win 10 games or it's a bust or anything like that. But I think you have to at least match, maybe surpass the win total from last year, so that you can continue to sell like we are on this upward trajectory. And then I think the sky's the limit in recruiting, at least, which is more what I tend to focus on. I think the sky's the limit from there if you can really kind of prove the concept that they've grabbed everyone's attention with.
That's kind of what I mean, though. Just like, not that I would. There's plenty of time to get into season predictions and stuff within the next month and a half, but not that I necessarily expect things to not go to plan. But you have to have it go to plan. You can't have all this good press and good vibes and then go 4-8 or 5-7. Like
we could be like the Bills Mafia.
Yeah, it's.
I feel like that's something we're edging close
to. And I feel like too, just because we're in Atlanta and obviously they're not in the SEC, but because that's the week 1 opponent. I do think you've got to watch out for Georgia State week 1. I'll just say that. I'm not getting into game by game stuff. And I think you did in the last episode, but Pauline, you got to be careful there. Because the one sentiment I did have with people we were talking with, like, Arkansas week 2 is tough. They're big. They're smashy. It's an early road game. Georgia's Georgia. Georgia State's got a former South Carolina coach as their head coach now, or former interim. You got to be careful there because it could be over before it starts if you don't take that seriously enough.
Oh gosh, no, for real.
Kind of vibe I got. South Carolina is probably going to be a 14-point favorite in that game and should win, but you do have to be careful there.
It's a scary game.
In reference,
that's it. Yeah, that's a. I don't know. I was talking to someone who covers Tennessee. Like, yeah, Georgia State week 1 can be a problem if you don't take it seriously enough.
So referencing what he was saying was last week we had a video that me and Ford, our other intern, did where we did our season predictions, which is on YouTube, and there's little clips all around our social media, so y'all will be able to find it. But basically, I put Georgia State was winning our first game. So you're telling me that we're already being tested on the first.
I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing as long as you don't lose it, but you can't lose it.
No, and I think that they will have their
But
full attention.
that's
I
That's the
think
thing
that
too.
yeah, I think they will have their full attention, but because it's week one, which definitely matters, and I think Sean Elliott and them have a lot to prove. So I've been doing a way too early look at each game. Georgia State. I'm going into order, obviously, and I did Georgia State about a month ago. So if you guys just Google Georgia State Gamecock Scoop or whatever, it should pop up, or you can scroll forever if you want.
did your opinions change? Did your opinions change on like since a month ago when you did your first season prediction?
Well, I said even then that it was going to be a tough game, and one of the things I've really enjoyed doing them because I haven't deep dove on each of the opponents until I actually get to them and I look at who they're returning and look at all of that. And it's scary because they're a veteran team. Like they return almost everyone. They return pretty much all of their offensive production. I do think that South Carolina should, you know, overpower them offensively against their defense, just because athlete to athlete, there's really no
There's a
comparison.
talent gap there for sure.
Yeah, but it won't surprise me if Georgia State scores some points because they
Yeah.
are led by someone who definitely is motivated to beat South Carolina, and they have a very veteran group on offense. So I think it'll at least be interesting for a half. If
You could do a lot worse for a week one game in terms of entertainment value. Like if that
right,
South Carolina State game had been week one, that might be better for like Shane Beamer if you could just kind of grease the skids a little bit with an FCS opponent. But I mean, it should be interesting.
definitely.
I kind of took us
And
off
that's a
course
night
there, but
game. That,
it is a
that's
night
not.
game. That'll be my first Williams Brice experience in the press box. But yeah,
I think it's going to be a good one too, and you know
Oh, I'm so excited.
the social media has been teasing the banners and stuff. They put in a new light system and everything for the stadium, so they'll get to have that on full display since it's a night game. That should be fun.
Those
yeah,
videos are so cool to watch.
I know
I
a
love
few
those
schools
videos.
have done those. I remember Georgia put theirs in 3 years ago. I think Bama did. I think Bama did theirs during the COVID year, which ended up being kind of awkward with like a fourth of the stadium in there. But yeah, they look cool in different places. So we'll see what South Carolina can do with that.
Well,
I'm sure their social media team figure something out.
back back to media days, one of the things that Shane Beamer mentioned, at least on the national stage, was that ticket sales are the highest that they've been in 10 years,
Yeah, he said
which is
yeah,
when.
season ticket. Yeah,
So
That's
I'm
crazy
expecting it.
considering.
Yeah, I'm expecting it to be pretty packed for that first game. So any other takeaways from just general time at SEC Media Days as far as
I
other
feel like
coaches that stood out? Or
I'm trying to think about some other stuff that's. I mean, there's which I'm definitely not a social media savant, but apparently this word count thing went viral. On Tuesday, I was sitting there listening to Vanderbilt head coach Clark Leah give the longest opening statement in the history of media days, and I was like, "This is kind of long." When they send the transcript, I'm going to put it in a word counter and see how long it was. And then later that day, Mike Leach gives a 7-word opening statement, and I'm like, "All right, now this is a thing. Now I got to keep track of everybody's." And yeah, I turned my phone off for a few hours last night, just decompressing, and I come back with a couple hundred notifications. I'm like, I didn't. What? Oh, it's the word count. Okay.
oh yeah, I
Um,
just saw this. You got retweeted 206 times on that. All right.
awesome.
How many
That's
words was it? How many words?
I don't
Oh
know.
no, no. But Beamer's word count was
He was
2,185
second behind
words.
Clark Leah. Yeah,
Yeah, Clark Leah was 2,340 words. So yeah,
and most of the
they were the
coaches
only
were
two over
somewhere.
2,000.
Most of the coaches were somewhere between like 1,000 and 1,500. And then you get the
Another
Mississippi schools.
notable one is Mike Leach, 7 words.
7 word. Yeah, that's when I was like, that's when I decided I had to count all the rest of these. Once he dropped that 7-word opening statement.
That's so funny.
So there was
Like
that.
my name's Mike Leach. Thanks.
No, it was like because Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, introduced him. He was like, I think it was all right. Thanks for that. Are there questions? Maybe that was the 7. I'd have to look
Didn't
back at
even
the
say
transcript.
his name.
No, I'd have to look back at the transcript. It was a transcript. It was something like that. But
That's so funny.
and then my other note, they send the ballots out, and the whole conference media ballot will drop, I guess, today or tomorrow. I don't remember what I put on all the individual, like who is going to be the 7th best linebacker in the SEC this year. I don't remember, but the ranked order for the two divisions, I put South Carolina 4th in the East. I got it behind Georgia, Tennessee, and Kentucky, and ahead of Florida, Missouri, and Vanderbilt. I thought that was fair. I mean, I'm kind of bullish on Tennessee this year. Kentucky's built an established program with Mark Stoops, as strange as that kind of is to say. I mean, they beat South Carolina now, 7 out of 8. So I thought fourth was fair, but if you win the non-conference games and maybe steal one somewhere else, fourth in the East can still mean 7-5, and then a bowl win gets you to 8. So, and then in the West, of course, like I'm assuming everybody else will. I picked Alabama to win it, and then I think I had A&M second, and coming up in the bottom was Auburn, which I also think will be a popular pick when these drop today, I guess.
Yeah, looking forward to that. I think fourth is fair. I think if you exceed that, like third should be the goal.
Yeah, I think that's probably a better way. That's a fair goal to have. I don't think fourth is a disaster as long as you don't trip up in one of the non-conference games or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think third is a successful season if you finish third this year, and obviously if you can do better than that, we're ecstatic. But yeah, I think third is a very reasonable goal, and it's hard to pick ahead of Tennessee or Kentucky right now because, like you said, that's not been the
Kentucky beat them a lot,
trajectory.
and Tennessee embarrassed them last year. If we're going to be real about it, so
Talked about this already. I've talked about this too many times.
Florida's the one in the East I didn't really know where to pick. You know, you look at the other ones. Georgia's Georgia. We just talked about Tennessee and Kentucky. Missouri doesn't have the quarterback situation figured out yet, and Vanderbilt's going to be at too much of a talent deficit. I don't really know what to think of Florida yet. Billy Napier was very CEO style in his media stuff. You know, cards close to the vest, all that stuff. I think Dan Mullen left them at a pretty big talent gap because he just didn't really care that much about recruiting, which is the way you need to in the SEC. But by the time South Carolina gets to that game, that's game 10 on the schedule. So things could look so different by then. That's kind of the one team I put them fifth behind South Carolina and ahead of Missouri and Vanderbilt. So I thought that was fair, but Florida's kind of the wild card in the East, I think.
It's a valid take. It's a valid take.
The schedule itself is not doing South Carolina any favors this year.
No, it never does in the SEC. But
yeah. No, but the early road game at Arkansas, that's rough.
That's the killer to me because, I mean, there's more scheme stuff to break into in other episodes, but this team did struggle to stop the run last year, and Arkansas is not exactly shy about what they want to do to you. Yeah. They're going to turn the ball around and hand it off 50 times, so you got to be ready. You got to be ready for that.
Yep, and they return all three of their top rushers from last year
and their quarterback.
4 if you're including the quarterback, exactly.
Right,
so
Jefferson. Yeah.
That's another one. When I was breaking it down, I was like, ooh, this is like. I mean, they obviously are missing their top receiver, which will affect things, I think. But their running game is fully intact. So
I don't. I think it might be better to get them early than later because they are going to need to find some playmakers. That's one thing Sam Pittman was talking about that he thinks they're going to need to address. But like I said, they're going to run big boy smash, and South Carolina is going to have to be ready for that for an 11 a.m. kick local time out there.
Exactly. I have to run soon, so do we want to transition to a fun segment real quick?
Sure.
So basically, for this one, it's very open-ended. Sometimes we've drafted, sometimes we've sort of done top lists or whatever. But I was thinking we got about a week, 2 weeks almost, but South Carolina kicks off fall camp August 5th, which is 2 Fridays from now. I guess 2 weeks from today.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of thinking this last week of July, at least when I was playing high school football, this was like the dead week where people went on vacation or whatever. So I kind of wanted to break down. All right, you got a week of summer vacation left. What are you doing if you only got 1 week of summer vacation left? And I'll start because I'm going to have to run. So I'll go ahead and say mine, and then I have to hop off here. But I actually, this very much applies to me right now. So I know, Alan, you're moving to Columbia. I'm moving out of my house up here in Rhode Island. And that's why there's a blank wall behind me, actually, because I'm sitting in bed right now because it's the only piece of furniture left in my house at the moment. So for the last week, I'm spending time at the beach. I'm going to a music festival, Newport Folk Fest, today. And I'm kind of just hitting all my favorite restaurants and all the things that I know that I'm not going to get again anytime soon. So pretty boring-ish answer, I guess, but trying to embrace these last weeks of summer because I know as soon as August 1st hits, and especially once August 5th hits, things are going to get pretty crazy over here on the website.
All right, I'll go next. And Caleb, if you have to go, if he disappears, it's fine. I'm taking over. But so for mine, I'm actually flying back to, oh, there he just went. So for my last week of summer, I'm actually going back to Connecticut. I live on the beach, so I actually get to go to the beach there and not here in South Carolina where I'm landlocked. So I'm excited for that. And I
There's
get to
beaches,
see.
well, not in Columbia, but you can drive to Myrtle Beach or wherever.
Yeah, but that's far enough. But like for like right where I am back home, it's a 15-minute drive. I used to go there all the
Right.
time. But I also just have to get my things together for school to start because I'm going to be a senior this year. So it's going to be my last year. Might as well try to get my life together. But how about you? What's yours?
Right now I'm doing all the stuff Caleb's doing, 'cause I'm moving to Columbia, so it's not really a good answer this year.
Twins.
I'm staring over my shoulder right now. Well, not over my shoulder, but in front of me at a bunch of boxes that still need to be filled before I actually head up to Columbia again. I did like a first part move
Oh,
with some
Lord.
bigger stuff, and then I came back to Atlanta, which where I'm originally from, for media days. And I'm going up for real with the rest of my stuff. But yeah, most of that stuff. But in general, like on a normal, non put your life in a vehicle and move it to another state, last week of summer, just I do like to chill. I like doing some baseball. I guess I'm wearing a Braves t-shirt now. Always like, oh, well, once school starts or whatever, you can't really do that as easily. So trying to hit a baseball game or two. But
Yeah.
it's really chill. I just like to not have things to do before I have things to do.
Unfortunately, we all have things to do. So don't get to do
Especially this
that.
year.
But
Well, you say that. I'm
yeah, for
moving. Kayla's moving. You're going to the beach. I think you're getting the better end of the stick here.
I guess, yeah, I really can't say anything. I'll keep my mouth shut. But real quick, right before we go, I just wanted to let everybody watching, all our viewers, know that we do have a new TikTok that Kayla put me in charge of. So hype us up. Alan actually gave us little 1-minute debriefs after each day during SEC Media Days. So if y'all want the abbreviated or abridged version, you can go to our TikTok and on our Instagram, and you'll be able to find those there. But that is really it for us today. Caleb dipped within the last 2 minutes of it, but Alan, thanks for
thanks for having me.
giving us some info, and y'all can check out all of his articles about it on our website. You might have to bite the bullet and get premium so you can see all the cool things that he got to experience there. But I will talk to y'all next week with Caleb. Thank y'all so much.